So People First is the national self-advocacy organisation run and controlled by people with learning difficulties. We were set up in 1984 after a group of self-advocates actually came back from an international conference held in Canada. From that conference, over a period of time, different towns and cities across the UK set up their own local self-advocacy organisations with their own management committee and local and regional campaign priorities. We set up a COVID-19 action support group for self-advocates, and they kind of came together. And one of the major problems that was started was digital exclusion, access, the support, the vital support that people with learning difficulties had, that was actually cut off and stopped. The personal care things that people would actually need, putting them into kind of boxes and then giving them to the actual people that the project was actually supporting. And a lot of our members kind of felt kind of cut off, isolated and forgotten about. And a lot of the actual conversations that was actually happening by the Prime Minister at the time and the statements, all of that information wasn't actually in a accessible format. So it fell down to local self-advocacy organisations to actually put the information that was changing week by week, to put that information into easy read so that people with learning difficulties could keep themselves safe and know what was kind of going on. One of the things that the COVID-19 Action Support Group did was we started to actually put together letters calling for people with learning difficulties and people that needed support to actually be vaccinated, because it's actually 2 years of being isolated and cut off. It means that a lot of people are actually frightened of actually going out on their own. It's had an impact on people's mental health. And it's actually had an impact, I think, on actually how they actually communicate with friends, with family. Some people want to actually get together and join in groups. Some people actually want to actually keep communicating online. Local self-advocacy orgs are actually having to kind of adapt. I think one of the member organisations in Leeds, they've actually started their cafe project again, where they're slowly bringing people together to rebuild their confidence. For society generally, it's finished, it's over. But for a lot of people with learning difficulties and other people with pre-existing conditions, we're still, our minds are still stuck in the COVID mindset of 2 years.
Okay, so that's given us a really good picture of perhaps some of the reasons why there was a higher fatality rate for people with learning difficulties than other groups, particularly young people. Is there anything you want to add why young people with learning difficulties were particularly at risk of getting COVID?
I think for a lot of people, the amount of jargon, that politicians were kind of throwing out, there is a lack of confidence within the people that actually make the rules. If they're going to make rules, we expect them to keep the rules. So I think we're going into an unknown about what impact COVID is going to actually have on people who are on the autistic spectrum, people who have mental health conditions and a learning disability, people who are living in a environment where they are not as independent as they would like to be. And social care is in a crisis where it can't provide the basics. And we have a political class that actually can't get its house in order to actually think about how to actually solve the problem.
On November the 17th, we're going to get a whole lot more of austerity measures. How are those going to impact on the people you represent, and what can we do about it?
I think everybody's going to be worrying about what support can I hold on to, what basic support I do have. Okay, am I going to what kind of quality of life am I going to have if I can't actually charge my wheelchair to be able to kind of get out? And I'm really, really worried, okay, that social care is always that it is not even thought about. They haven't even handled Winterbourne View or properly, and there have been other examples of where abuse is actually taking place. You get the same kind of, we will learn lessons, but they never do. These I think it was in 2014 the government actually committed to kind of closing institutions, and as we recently kind of heard, that they're still there. People's level of support is kind of what it is, and I'm worried that because of our political class, that's all political parties, okay, because they are turning towards only one voice, and that is the voice of parents for the solutions. They are going to actually have to start to actually listen to the voices of people with learning difficulties, people with autism, people with young people who are coming through school, college, and university now, to actually get the kind of social care system that we actually want. And because we are now out of the EU, we have it's recognized within the NHS system that we have a staffing crisis in every kind of job area that affects people with learning difficulties and autism. At the moment, we actually have the media that talk to parents, and although those parents have a valuable input to get the system right, all journalists, all media need to start to talk directly to people with learning difficulties and autism properly, directly, not through mum, not through dad, not through a support. They need to speak to us directly. Only by doing that, okay, we'll get things right, and the whole learning disability movement need to come together and act as one voice.